Hello, friends. Chris Corsi here, president of Thrive Today, and I want to welcome you to the Relational Skills in Real Life podcast. Friends, today's topic is one of the toughest issues a lot of us face, and that is how to engage people with less fear. You know what? Fear is a powerful motivator. Fear takes over our brain's attention, our brain's resources, our creativity, our ability to stay relational. Fear is a thorn in the side. There's nothing fun about fear. And you know what? We have a special guest today. We have a Thrive graduate, my friend Terri, who has been practicing relational skills for a number of years. Friends, I've had the pleasure of knowing Terri over the years and watching God work in her life, through her life. Watching Terri grow has been like watching a wonderful garden grow and blossom with many flowers and plants and fruit trees that are just growing good fruit. Good things have been growing in that garden, and I'm very excited to have Terri share with us. She's going to talk to us about an example in her life when fear was really making things hard for her. She recognized that interacting with someone was very difficult. Let's hear from Terri and see how she handles this difficult situation.
My name is Terri, and I want to share how Thrive Relational Skill Training has impacted my life. One of the ways is being able to engage people with less fear. There was a time, a few years ago, when the person I had been buying eggs from stopped selling. When looking for a new egg source, I got the name of someone and started to purchase eggs from her. She had a tough exterior and was not the kindest with her words. This stirred fear in me, and I noticed my body would get tensed before connecting with her. I sometimes avoided her or looked for ways to get what I needed without interacting with her, because sometimes it was just really uncomfortable. After noticing this for a while and recognizing the fear involved on my end, I was able to start taking some deep breaths and quieting myself to quiet the fear. Then I looked to Jesus for some peace and perspective. With God's help, I started to see her differently. I began to see her as valuable. I began interacting with her from a place of peace and joy. With God's help, I was genuinely glad to see her. So, fast forward after a while of taking this to Emmanuel, and now when we connect, oftentimes there are smiles and chuckles, and I have found favor with her in ways that surprise me. I have been through Thrive Today's 5-day relational skill training. This is a life-changing investment that I highly recommend.
All right. Wasn't that something? My friend Terri gives us a beautiful example demonstrating how to use relational skills where fear is present. Fear was real. Fear is a ruthless enemy, friends. It will steal from you everything that matters the most to you. And I really appreciated Terry's example because I suspect a lot of us can relate to that. How do we handle and engage people that we find to be difficult in some way, shape, or form, where we have some fear that's present? And how do we lessen the fear in order to stay relational and engage people? How do we stay our relational selves, right? That's an important relational skill in the 19 skills. How do we stay our relational selves, and how do we avoid fear running our lives? So first and foremost, Terri recognized the fear. She recognized the signs that fear was having a heyday in her mind, that fear was actually influencing her behavior. She recognized that she had some avoidance behavior. It was hard to interact with the woman when she wanted to buy some eggs. This brought a lot of discomfort in her. Terri's survival circuit was trying to avoid the painful discomfort, but she recognized this. Kudos to Terri for recognizing this. Sometimes this is one of the hardest steps, recognizing the areas where fear is running the show in some way. This is not easy to do because fear can influence our behavior. And really, fear puts our brain in the state we call enemy mode, where we're not relational anymore and people feel like problems, and we have to navigate that. But Terri recognized the fear. As a Thrive graduate, she used skill 18, which is identifying the ways that pain is showing up. And she recognized what she needed. So she knew her brain was locked in fear, and she knew one of the first things she needed was to quiet. So when our survival circuit is having a heyday in some way, the thing that we need is often the hardest thing to do, which is quiet. So Terri was able to take some deep breaths to quiet her fear. And then she turned to skill 13, which is God sight. And God sight means seeing some of what God sees. So Terri talked to Jesus for some insights and understanding and perspective. And this is an important skill, but that quieting skill, skill 2, actually laid the foundation for skill 13. So Terri knew she needed to quiet first and foremost, and then she needed to interact with the living God. And Terri started to quiet that fear, and she started to see the woman differently as she practiced seeing some of what God sees. In fact, Terri said something very significant, which is there were smiles and chuckles in this woman as she interacted with her, which is a good sign. Skill 0 was working, and skill 0 is turning on the brain's relational circuitry. So the woman was relational because Terri stayed her relational self. That's a good news. So Terri lived from her heart in that instance. Friends, Terri's relational skill training paid off. The skills showed up in her life and her relationships. And this is such a good reminder for all of us that practice pays off. There's really no way around it here. The results will show up in our life and relationships when we practice relational skills, because we use relational skills and we express the life that God has put in all of us. And so one of the things we can do as we go forward here is just identify where are some of those areas in your life where fear is running the show. Let's follow Terri's example by quieting, by recognizing those places, and then finding some joy and peace while we interact with the living God to get some understanding. Friends, there's a lot of great resources on our website, thrivetoday.org. The Joy Switch book has about 19 exercises that we can practice in order to use some of these relational skills. Lots of good stuff there. And my friends, Jim Wilder and Ray Woolridge, wrote a wonderful book called Escaping Enemy Mode. You can learn about this book. It's full of richness and good stuff. Visit lifemodelworks.org. And we had a partnership webinar on escaping enemy mode when the book launched. And you can watch that webinar as well at thrivetoday.org. Good stuff, my friends. A little bit of practice pays off.